Hey friends, this is Tim Stevens, and I am sitting here with the esteemed David Whiting.
I don't know about that word.
I'm going with it. I'm going with it. So here's what's unique. David and I have been doing life together for 50, I just turned 58, for 52 years, since I was
Sure.
6 and David was 4.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the day we first met and kind of like how was that for you, David?
Boy, that might be a little stretch for me. But I could probably tell you about where it was. Is probably, in the kids' wing of the church or
Yeah.
one of our family's homes or something.
Yeah, our families did life together for the whole time we were both in high school. And then David met my wife before I did,
Mhm.
years before I did, because they were at
Mhm.
college together. And then
Yeah, we traveled one summer together, actually. We were in
that's
a
right.
singing group together and traveled. Yeah.
The summer that Faith and I met, you guys were traveling and you were in the van or driving the van or something the day she was dropped off and I first met her at Life Action Ministries.
I was very excited to introduce the two of you, two of my favorite people, and it worked out really well.
It worked out well. So we're going to talk about how David's doing some work with Leading Smart, but to get into that, want to just take me through like your ministry story and kind of what got you to what you're doing today.
Yeah. Yeah, so grew up in Des Moines, Iowa with Tim, and but then went right into college and seminary. I began as a youth pastor. Um,
In Central
for
PA,
I
right?
That's right, yeah, Harrisburg area. I did that for 8 years or so, and then became a lead pastor. Um, right before I seemed to take positions as a lead pastor shortly before some kind of national crisis. So I
Mm,
became a lead pastor January 1st, 2001, so 9 months before 9/11.
wow.
Um, and that was a church that had been, I would say, stuck in the 200s for literally 100 years. It was a 100-year-old church, um, and it was a kind of a old school traditional, but wanting to break out of that, wanting to be very continue with um, their conservative orthodoxy, but not necessarily their orthopraxy. They wanted to be progressive in how we reached people while maintaining their our theological roots. So I was able to be part of leading that church for over 16 years, and it grew
Wow.
tremendously. And I didn't know what I was doing. Frankly, I'd never been part of a growing church in my life. The only time I was part of a growing church was probably in the first 10 years of us knowing each other. When we were young, our church was growing, but
Yeah.
I'd never been part of a growing church ever, and did that for 16 and a half years and loved it. And we grew from a couple hundred to almost a couple of thousand in that time. And I often say that we grew every single year I was there. The first year we only grew by 2 people, and I brought 4 people with me. So I'm not sure if that counts, but I count
You know
it.
what? I think you should count it.
I do. Oh, I do. But yeah, then the growth started happening quickly. Very slow the first 3 years, and then quickly. And then there came a point where I called my friend Tim Stevens and said, "Hey Tim, I'm thinking about leaving here and working with churches instead of just a church. Um, what do you think?" And that kind of hearing your story of leaving Granger to work at Vanderbloemen at the time almost eventually became a recruitment call. And
Yeah.
then I came to work with you and for you at Vanderbloemen for about, I don't know, 3.5 years, and
Yeah.
very appreciative of that time because while we were there, my youngest daughter was diagnosed with bone cancer, and if people are familiar with MD Anderson there in Houston, it's arguably the number one cancer hospital in the world. It certainly
Yeah.
would be in anybody's handful of top. We were 21 miles from it, and for many people, it was their last option. And for us, it was our first choice. So a lot of the people that Emily walked through the cancer journey with didn't survive. They were coming from other places in the country after failing elsewhere, and we were able to go there from the start. So that was a very significant time in our life. And then
I
and then we ended
remember
up. What's that?
I remember during that season, because why is David Whiting in Houston, Texas, working with churches? You're you're an amazing lead pastor and gifted communicator. And just it clicked, when Emily got cancer, it's like, okay, God might have something in this that took you guys to Houston.
Yeah, we look with great joy and thankfulness, I should say, gratitude and thankfulness for what we were able to experience. And then a little over a year before COVID hit, then I became a lead pastor again. So I seem to twice become a lead pastor right before some kind of national
Good
crises. And
timing. Good timing.
but I moved to Vancouver, Washington, and became the lead pastor of a church that had been on a just a slight decline like 13 years in a row. They'd lost about an average of 100 people a year, but at their height they were almost 4,500. So when I think 4 or 5 campuses, 11 services, so it wasn't real noticeable, but the leaders recognized. And I was following a very successful lead pastor who served there well, um, and so I was able to jump in there, and things turned around really quickly before COVID hit, obviously. And then a couple of years ago, then moved over to what I'm doing now and working again with churches, and really thankful for the Lord's grace and mercy, and just really have enjoyed serving churches in this way.
It's interesting how our journeys have tracked a bit in that
Yeah,
I, left local church to work with churches a couple years before you left local church to work with churches, and then you went back into local church, and then I did a couple years after that, and then
yeah,
I segued out. But the same summer of 23, I segued out of Willow into doing this full time again, and you transitioned into doing this full time. And it's kind of cool. Those of you that kind of follow Leading Smart has a handful of like selected partners that we highly trust, and Generosity OS is one of those. And you joined up, I think, was it maybe within 6 months after you started working with churches full time with Generosity OS. So that was cool because we have a partnership with them, and you and I have this friendship. And then sometime, a year ago, you started doing some work with Leading Smart.
hmm
And so let's talk about some of that, like some of the stuff that I found, some of the stuff you and I do, we both do, like succession consulting. You do
hmm
some work with Leading Smart with some churches, as do I, and some board structure work. But you've done some board retreats. I think you're
hmm
way better equipped to do that than I am, as your experience with leading with us as a senior pastor. But talk about some of the work you've done, and some of it's ongoing. Obviously, we're not going to mention specific church names, but
right.
it's been fun to see you jump into that. And I've told people there's probably on one hand the number of people I trust more than I trust you, and so it's been really cool to have you come alongside and like I don't like there's nothing I know that you don't know. I mean, there's things we help each other with, but it's been pretty amazing. But talk a little bit about the work you've done with Leading Smart.
Yeah, I think overall in working with churches, it feels like there's a couple of things that I really enjoy doing. One is I think a lot of churches are underdeveloped when it comes to generosity of how do we handle that. So I love working with churches there. But when it comes to leading smart, it's also just a lead pastor needs um, a friend, a coach that would come alongside in certain moments, whether it's I'm thinking about succession that we've done, or there's a crisis situation that I've been involved with now for almost a year, and just stepping close and becoming friends with those that are most intimately involved and trying to give them an outside perspective. Um, uh, Structure of governance as a church grows from, you know, by God's grace, I have some experience of what it looks like from a church to grow from 2 or 300 to a couple thousand. And if the structure of the organization doesn't change with the growing of church, it becomes a stifling thing. So being able to help as the church grows through it, they know nothing else than what they've been structured like when they were a smaller church. So yeah, I enjoy all of that I can step alongside a lead pastor or church leaders and bring in some of my experiences, or just help them think through their experience and coach them along toward it. And I find great joy in it of just being that strategic advisor for a lead pastor or leaders of a church.
Yeah, and I tell you what, like when you have, I mean, you've got 35 plus years of ministry experience, you've got the education to back that up, and then you have all, these various churches. You were coaching church leaders way before you went to Vanderblumen, and then you got a chance to help scores of pastors that were in transition and churches that were in transition, and then the work you've done since then as well. It's that wealth of experience. It's almost like it can't be trained. I mean, some of it can be trained, but it's really the wealth of experience that you bring to the table that makes just me so glad that we're partnering together. And you come into some interesting, situations. We've got some, I think David's uniquely gifted, and I've done a little bit of this too, to like a church that's in crisis, to come in and just help them, untangle. They've got the I sometimes call it the fog of war. It's just like it's not war, but it's just confusing and it's muddy and everyone's emotionally entangled, and so it's hard to see through it all. And we get to go in and help just provide some clarity and some next steps when a church is in crisis. So
Yeah, I feel like with all of that, what's unique about it is when you're a lead pastor of a church or an XP of a church that you've done for years and done well, is really you're on the front lines of ministry. Now I feel like I'm on the supply line.
mm,
What's needed? How can I help? How can I step alongside you? How can I give you confidence? What's a resource you need? What's a conversation you need to have? What's a discussion partner that you just need to be able to speak frankly with? Because there's nobody around that you can have this frank conversation with to think through it. And I find great joy in, it's stepping, as you and I have talked about many times, we feel like we're stepping into holy moments on holy ground at a holy time in a unique moment in a church's life. And well, we both do, but we find great joy in being a trusted partner with a church for a period of time.
yeah, it feels like, in a lot of times it's just like it's a sacred like thing that you hold, that you realize in the moment, um, how much trust this leader or this church is putting in you, and you just hold that like with just a gratefulness, a humility, and
Yeah.
a desire to just come alongside and help them take steps.
Yeah.
So you told us a little bit about Emily. Tell us who else do you call family?
Yeah. So my wife, we've been married for 34 years as of a little over a week ago.
You
Um,
know the actual date?
yeah, June 21st. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
very good, very good.
Yeah. So yeah, but in fact, I'm down here in San Diego getting ready to work with a church. Um, and so strangely enough, when I go to or North Dakota or somewhere else, she doesn't seem to always want to tag along, but I'm going to San Diego and she said, "Oh, I'll come." So
Yeah,
so we came down a couple days
smart woman.
early, and yeah, she is. And but yeah, so Sue and I have been married for 34 years. And then I've got three daughters. I mentioned Emily, my youngest, and then two others, Morgan and Allie. Morgan and Allie are both married. One of the blessings we have is all three of my children live within 2 miles of our house, and two of them, Allie and Morgan, they own homes that are around the corner from each other, maybe 5 or 6 homes apart. So we know we probably won't have this forever, but we have it for now, and we love it. The family comes over every Saturday night. We have a meal at our house. And man, it's a unique season that I know won't last forever, but my wife sure hopes it does. We also have two grandchildren, and so yeah, we're at a season of life that we're so thankful. God has done so much beyond what I deserve, and I'm just so thankful. So it's been a great joy. We're just enjoying this season of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Great family. We love hanging out with them every chance we get. So if you want to connect with us, and just talk about how David or I can serve your church, reach out to us at leadingsmart.com. There's a button somewhere on the front page that says let's connect or let's talk, or just reach out to us individually. It's Tim at leadingsmart.com or David at leadingsmart.com. And we'd love to have a conversation with you. But David, thanks for being just a great friend and a great ministry partner. Man, it's super special.
Well, it's way more meaningful to me these days than I know it would be for you. You've been a great friend, and thankful we get to work together. I thought our days at Vanderbloemen were so much fun, and now that we get to work together again, I'm just really enjoying every part of it.
Super cool. Well, have a great day.